Gout, a basic understanding. Before you can hope to become free of gout, you have to understand not only what it is, but be prepared to take an active role in it. By that I mean that you have to really get to grips with studying. You must develop a full and accurate understanding of diet, the condition of gout, and how it affects your body, and also how medicine works. Now you may be thinking that that sounds like quite a lot of hard work, but Gout School has been developed specifically with learning in mind. Having taught for over 12 years, I know that study is not only something people don't like to do, but also something that they don't want to do. With that in mind, Gout School has been created to make understanding what you need to know not only easy, but available to you anywhere at any time. You can learn how to beat gout and beat gout for good while working your job, driving your car, or even eating your lunch. I myself suffered from gout for over 7 years until I became gout-free. In that time I had many flare-ups, averaging about 1 every 2 months, and tried many different ways to try and cope with gout. But then I hit upon a thought and it changed my life. It changed how I dealt with gout and how successful I was. Most people learn to cope with gout as if that's the best way to live. They accept that gout will be part of their life, and then they put together action plans for dealing with it and living with it. Now this way of coping with the situation isn't a bad idea if, say, you're on holiday and the people in the hotel room next to yours are quite loud. It's not really a big problem because you know you're only going to be there a week. But when we're talking about your whole life, coping does not sound like a viable option. Coping, in fact, is the worst plan. Your whole life shouldn't be a system of coping, it should be a system of controlling. And that's what we're looking at, controlling and being free of gout. People that learn to cope with gout accept that gout will be part of their life. What I realise is that that's the worst way to deal with your gout. That's like having those hotel room neighbours from hell next to you for the rest of your life. Gout is a health condition. It's not something that you're born suffering from, but it is perhaps, and I say perhaps, something you can trace back to ancestors that came before you. For some people, there are no relatives that have suffered from it, and it would appear to them that this is a complete freak ailment. But what can we find out about conditions? Well, dictionary.com defines a condition as a particular mode of being of a person or thing, an existing state, a situation with respect to circumstances. In other words, your gout is your existing state. You are a gout sufferer. This, we find out, is your condition, and it is caused by circumstances. Now these circumstances we are talking about here are things such as diet, understanding, actions, lifestyle, taking or not taking medication, and so on. It is how you are living, acting, thinking, understanding. In short, for many it is due to their habitual everyday behaviour far more than it is due to any genetic connection. Another way to explain this is cause and effect. Your actions and way of living and applying knowledge are the cause of your problem. Your pain, swelling, discomfort and agony, your gout, is the effect. So, how do we cure an effect? Well, we change the cause, and the effect must change also. You may be sitting there thinking that you can't cure your gout. Many websites and doctors explain gout as being caused by high uric acid in the blood and blame this on purines. Experts excuse gout, saying it's caused by this uric acid, but that's not the primary cause for gout. We have to go deeper and look at what the increase in uric acid is, and we find that it is a response to a problem that the body has been presented with. The answer to gout really is that obvious. You change the circumstances and you change the effect. In other words, you get rid of your gout by changing what you do, what you eat and how you think. You might cry out, but I've tried it and it simply doesn't work. Well, Edison tried to make the light bulb over 2,000 times before he finally got it right. So how many times have you tried, and I mean persistently tried, to change your causes of gout? How often have you looked at your behaviour, physically, emotionally and mentally, and asked yourself, where is there a problem? It is important here that you understand I'm not trying to sell you this idea. I'm not trying to convince you of it. I want you to play with it. Play with it to see if it fits. We live in a world so powerfully shaped by science and Western medicine that we have become quite lazy. We rely on drugs rather than on common sense and our own built-in but often inert and unused abilities. Now, I'm not saying that science and medicine is wrong, because that isn't necessarily true, but it is not complete. Because of our schooling, we want everything proved to us before we believe it. This is our logic that we're presented with. I won't do that until you show me that it worked. But this is putting the cart before the horse. Napoleon Hill likened this kind of attitude to saying to a stove, give me some heat and then I'll put on the wood. It's never ever going to happen if we think in this way. The truth is that you are the only you that there is today or ever will be, and your gout is your gout. Online forums, Facebook pages and groups always end up the same way, with somebody commenting along the lines of, well, gout affects everyone differently, and there is no cure. This usually puts an end to attempts to have an effective discussion about what can be done by you as an individual. It's kind of like a smug dismissal really to that nagging question all gout sufferers have, which is, why? We inherit an attitude of defeatism and powerlessness when we learn that we have gout for the first time. The diagnosis from the doctor is usually very, very grim and prescribes the usual drugging of our body's system and warns us off eating certain foods. These foods are relegated as bad or evil. I remember my first gout attack. I went to the doctor with my foot on fire and had to wait a week before I could get any medication while the blood work came back. Once the blood work did come back, they gave me medication that didn't really work and a whole list of foods that I shouldn't eat. The list of foods was so depressingly long and included everything that was tasty that I really did feel like screwing up in a ball and crying, not just because of the pain, but because of the depressing diet that I'd have to eat. But the real truth is that your body and my body loves food because food gives it fuel. The drugs, incidentally, simply do or do not work depending on your own particular set of causes, how soon you start to use them, and what dosage you use them in. With a condition like gout, you simply have to keep an open, inquiring mind and experiment. Many people are dismissive because they try something once and it doesn't work, rather than getting to understand not only why it should work, but how they can improve the chances of becoming gout-free. Most people have the attitude to gout of trying to squash it and destroy it when it appears, with pharmaceutical drugs and rapid lifestyle changes. People suddenly drink enormous amounts of water, scour the internet for advice, and try everything they can think of to ease the pain. I myself used to react to gout in this way. Other people accept it, take the drugs, fight the pain, and suffer the sleepless nights, hoping and praying that gout will eventually leave them alone. But these are not treatments for gout. They're not even intelligent or rational ways to deal with gout. In fact, given what we know about how the body works, these are far from scientific and bordering more on the manic. When you are doing this, you are reacting to gout. You're not getting to the root of the problem, the primary cause. All you are doing is battling the effect. Remember what we learned before? Your gout condition is the result of your circumstances. This doesn't mean circumstances today, or perhaps even this week. Gout is caused by a prolonged failure to notice and address simple warning signs that your body is not happy with something you are doing. Some circumstance that you are habitually carrying out is pushing your body into an unhealthy and toxic state, leaving it no option but to break down into gout. So then, how do you begin to deal with gout? First, you have to realize you have the power to do so. Every single person has the power to control the circumstances of their life. Even you, the gout sufferer. These circumstances could be your diet, your exercise, your workload, your social life, your footwear, your clothing, your level of knowledge, and so on. Now, cynics don't believe this. They react strongly to the ideas that require free thought or even belief in their own abilities. Cynics instead continue to suffer from gout, taking the medication that does or doesn't work in a very hit and miss manner, rather than free themselves from it. But the strange thing is, people that do understand this are not only in control of their gout, but seldom, if ever, suffer from it again. Second, you have to educate yourself. Education is the first step in solving any problem. The more you educate yourself, the more aware of possibilities you become. The more aware you become, the less fearful of gout you are, because you have understanding. The more understanding you have, the more potential power you have to change whether you suffer from gout or not. Third, you have to get gout hostile, and that means developing a system. We have all been fed a half-truth by society that knowledge is power. This is not true. Knowledge is just knowledge. Power comes from the direction and application of knowledge. If knowledge were power, everybody with a university degree would have a great paying job. But this just isn't so. It's whether they choose to use that and apply it that gives them the great job or not. Power comes from the direction and application of knowledge. To know something and not act on it does not change your circumstances and won't improve your gout. So, how do you develop a system? Well, the long way round is through trial and error, and that could take months or even many years before you develop a winning system. I spent 7 years in gout hell, suffering attacks in toe joints, ankle joints, under my foot, on the outside of my foot, in my Achilles, in my heel, in my calf muscles, in my knees, in my fingers, in my ribs, and even in my spine. But I did figure it out through painful trial and error. The shorter, less painful way for you is to find a system that is successful, and tweak it until it fits you, since your gout is your gout. Now, should this system be given away for free? No. A servant is worth their hire. After all, medication is not free, and neither are hospital visits. Just incidentally, how much did your last gout attack cost you? Have you added it up? No doubt you had to get the medication. Now that can be expensive, not to mention getting to the doctor and the pharmacy was probably not only expensive but painful. What about time off work? Maybe you got sacked because of gout. Did you have to take a taxi instead of drive or use public transport? Did you have to buy special drinks or supplements? It sure adds up quick, doesn't it? Using an existing system should then be likened to buying a good, reliable car, tried and tested by many other people. Good enough to do a pretty good job, a standard job, but something you might want to personalize with optional extras and different colors, maybe a fancy new number plate or different designer leather seats or a fat exhaust pipe or alloy wheels, depending on your own particular tastes or needs. Anyway, I'm Jim Cuthbert for Gout School, and thanks.